Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is your captain, Marley Chillen speaking. Soon we'll set flight to the United States of America. We know that YouTube channels are our client's preference, so we thank you for flying Football United Airways. Fasten your seatbelt, sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight. United, we fly. All right. Hello there. Welcome back to Football United TV. We have a very special show for you guys. We're gonna be talking about, well, in my opinion, it's the fastest growing league in the world right now, the MLS, and we have some really special guests for you guys. We're gonna start with Chris Bills. How are you, my man? Representing Austin FC.
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, the newest club in the league. Well, newest club in the league for now. There's two more coming in next year, I think, and one more the year after that. So,
Okay,
but yeah, it's exciting times in MLS.
for sure, for sure. Right. We also have James from DC, UK.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'll
Yeah.
I'll come back to you in a bit because I'm really curious to see like how you found that passion for DC.
Yep.
But first, Morgan, IMCF Traveler, how are you?
Doing well, mate. Thanks for having me.
All right, representing another really young team, right? Inter Miami. That's it.
Yeah, second year.
All right. Well, if you've never seen Steven here, it's definitely your first time at Football United TV. So yeah, Steven Featley, how are you, my friend?
Not bad. How are you? I finally get to spend a show without talking about Arsenal for 5 minutes.
Right, like always a good time. Always good to avoid talking about Arsenal. Yeah, always a good idea. And Chris Paul, CP, glad to have you back, little bro.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All right, so yeah, let's get started, guys. And you know what? I'm gonna throw something there really fast because it's gonna take the whole show for something that I want to happen, and I'm gonna put all of you in the spot because I didn't plan this. Steven, you don't support anyone in the US, right?
No, there's only one club for me, and it's Arsenal Football Club.
Okay. But by the end of the show, I'm gonna ask you to pick a favorite. These guys are gonna try to sell their clubs a little bit, right? If none of them's good enough, you just pick a random team, but that would be a shame, right? Because we have three pitches here at the very least, right?
You could try.
Is everyone good with that?
Anyone that
good
says
with
it's going to take Arteta, though, you can. I'm your supporter. Just throw an offer out there already.
All right, Charlie, welcome, my man, and Tijo as well. Two good friends. All right, so let's talk about the table right now. I'm gonna put it up on the screen, but if you guys can get to it really quickly, Chris, right now, like right now, who's looking really good? You guys don't have relegation, so we don't have to address that. But who's looking promising? Like who's looking like they're gonna get into
Yeah,
the
I
playoffs
mean,
and
right
adventures?
now, the New England Revolution are in kind of pole position for supporter shield, but I think the battle that's really interesting right now is out west. I'm sure you guys probably saw the highlights from that big Sounders Timbers match the other night. Seattle and Portland, 8 goals, 6 of them coming for Seattle at Providence Park, which almost never happens, or at least shouldn't happen if you're a Timbers fan. But they were sawing right through the Timbers, and that's kind of been the case for Portland this year. Unfortunately, they're kind of leaking goals. They've given up 35 on the year. But Kansas City is actually on top right now in the West, which that's kind of been my pick right now to win it all. I really like this Kansas City team, and have since I saw them the first time against Austin, just knowing what they were missing at that point, and then to get Johnny Russell back in, and Polito has been really good, and I really like this Kansas City team. But beyond that, obviously LA Galaxy's strong again, which is good to see, and like I said, New England's kind of running away with the East right now.
Yeah. Well, before I ask anyone else, can anyone like briefly explain the format, because most people that watch football are not used to this. to this format of competing, right? Like it's more similar to the NBA with the whole playoff system. If anyone can get into this really quickly.
It looks a bit like the Super League to me.
So basically, kind of the format of the league is you've got your Eastern Conference and you've got your Western Conference. So as
Okay.
you could probably easily tell, it's teams from the East and teams from the West side of the country. The top 7 teams all qualify at the end of the season after 34 rounds of matches for the playoffs.
Okay.
And then, so kind of the way it works is the top team from each conference gets a bye through to the next round.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the remaining teams, so I think it's the top 3, so second, third, and fourth in the league will then play at home against 5, 6, and 7, if I remember correctly. Then they go through to the semi-finals, and then it goes to the final for each conference. And then the winners of those conferences will then battle it out for what's known as the MLS Cup. And that is the big trophy that everyone is fighting for at the end of the season. So it will be the top team from the Eastern, top team from the Western, after all those playoff games, will play for the Cup. But there is the Supporters' Shield as well, which is given to the top team in the league, like your traditional standings. That's done by the supporters for the team, because there was always something for the best team in the league in that sense.
Okay. And how is it determined, like who plays who
In the playoffs? That's what you're asking, who plays who in the playoffs? Yeah.
No. Regular season, right? Because
regular season.
There's 34 rounds. I'm assuming they play the teams in their conference or in their smaller divisions more often. But how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit weird this year because normally it's a 34 game season. So obviously, if you do the math, you can't play everybody twice.
Right.
So usually you'll play every team in your conference twice, and then a few teams 3 times. So specific rivalry matches like that Seattle Portland match that I mentioned, that usually happens, I think, 3 times each season. But this year, because of the coronavirus and all the challenges with that, they decided to play it safe and limit the travel at least a little bit, because the U.S. is obviously such a big country. So they're actually only playing 2 interconference matches this year each. So, for example, Austin played at Nashville, and then they hosted Columbus, and then they're done with the Eastern Conference slate for the entire season. So they've been playing all Western Conference teams other than that.
Yeah. All right. Was that like Steve and CP? Do you understand that? Because you guys are not as familiar with.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of. I think I watched the NBA. It's similar to that kind of.
Yeah, it's sort of similar to the NBA in that sense, because you've got pods. You don't have divisions, so it's a bit more nebulous with knowing which teams are going to play which 3 times. Like they're kind of creating this Copa Tejas is sort of similar to Supporters' Shield in that it's a fan created thing, but Austin, Houston, and Dallas will all play each other 3 times this year. Which kind of creates a fun little table between those 3 teams. But there's like little pods like that around the country.
Does it create some sort of like how do you say it? The like level of like sort of competition? Does it create some sort of that real sort of
like local rivalries, do you mean? Or
no, like we sort of, obviously in England we have relegation, and we have so many leagues in our English game. So you'd have a fight at the top, but you'd also have a fight at the bottom. So every team would be fighting no matter where they are, whether they're top of the table or the bottom of the table. With the fact you've got no relegation, do you get that same like intensity of competition that you would find like in European leagues or in the English league?
I would argue that the parity is what MLS has always sort of prided itself on, and it's gotten a little bit like Seattle has been consistently good the last few years. Some of the teams that you see at the top of the table are generally at the top of the table every year. But I mean, like Columbus won MLS Cup last year, and they're currently 8th in the Eastern Conference. So you have to really know how to play the game with the salary cap, and even then, you're going to end up having to sell players, and sort of the bottom goes to the top, and vice versa, pretty easily at times.
Yeah.
Another good example of that, as much as I hate them, is Orlando. I mean, for
Yeah.
years they were an absolute dog shit team, and now they're sitting fourth in the table. As much as I hate it.
Yeah, they've come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and I think for me that's more down to their head coach who's come in and he's really done well with the players that they've got, especially Nani. He's been absolutely a revelation for them. But yeah, you're right. It's the weird thing about this league, and the reason why I love the league so much is the fact that there's no real, or there's not sort of top dominant team who will win the league year in, year out. It's always someone new. And I look at just a few years ago, you look at Toronto, they won MLS and the MLS Cup, and they're bottom of the East at the moment. So it's just kind of
Wow, yeah,
it's crazy just to think how much in a few years things can change. And you look at my team, DC United, the last few years we've been just scraping into the playoffs, not making past the first round, not scoring many goals, being quite a boring team. So you look at us now, we're in sixth place. We've scored 29 goals, conceded 26. There's plenty of entertainment on offer for us. So it's kind of, we're starting to go on that upward trend now. So it's just one of those leagues that there's always something new happening. There's always a new team winning the league. And that's what makes it so exciting, is because you don't have your Man Cities, your Liverpools. I'm not going to say Arsenal because they haven't won the league for a very long time. You're welcome. But yeah, there's no sort of dominant team.
Well,
I mean, yeah, but they just haven't they don't win trophies.
yeah.
I guess that's what I've realized about myself following this league as closely as I have, and kind of falling in love with it, is that I think that sometimes when I watch sports, I prefer chaos to quality. So, like, I love college basketball, right? Because that's part of it's where I grew up, but part of it's also March Madness and the buzzer beaters, and you get so many of those chaotic, fun moments in MLS. The one I always think of recently was when Portland and Seattle, I keep bringing up that matchup, but when Portland and Seattle were in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and they went down to penalty kicks, or they ended in regulation, and it was tied, so they went to extra time on the second leg. This was back when it wasn't single elimination playoffs, and Portland scored in extra time, and then Seattle tied it. But because Portland was the road team, some of the players thought they had won, but they didn't know that they had just changed the playoff format that year. And so, like, the players were celebrating, and then they're like, no, we have to go to penalty kicks. It's like, where else do you see players not knowing the rules of their own league? This is amazing. So,
just look at the Orlando New York City playoff game.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah,
where the penalty shootout, and the ref didn't even realize how many penalties had been given. It's just pure entertainment. You just don't get that anywhere else.
No, but you guys were touching on something that I think it's really cool about the MLS, because it's sort of protected from super clubs, right? Like, because of the way sports work in the US, you see, right? Like, I watch the NBA, so I know that the Heat were really dominant for a really long time, that the Warriors were dominant for a long time, but it does protect the rest of the league, right? Like, with the draft system, with the salary cap, all of that. Even Brazil, that used to be for a long time the most competitive league in the world, where, like, every year you saw like 10 teams that could win. It's not like that anymore. Like, Brazil now kind of has super teams as well. Like, you see like 3 or 4 teams that actually stand chances of winning relevant trophies. I think it's awesome the way it works in the MLS. It does. I don't know. You have two sides. I want to ask you guys, as mainly Chris and Morgan, because you guys are from the US. Because on one side of the argument, maybe it could be kind of cool to have a regular league, just because the rest of the sports that you guys watch already have this playoff system, right? But I think for the outside world, it's interesting to have something with a different format.
What? I was going to mention Marty. Do you just check the private chat whilst the answer?
Oh, okay, yeah. It is.
What's up?
I think that's been
Oh,
settled.
it is.
Yeah,
So,
it is. Yeah, we're doing good. It's all good.
it DM me to tell you, so that I told you so. That's shoot
It's
him.
all good. It's all good. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you prefer a regular league system with a cup on the side as well, or do you like the fact that it's different from the rest?
I'll start. I guess. I mean, I enjoy the playoffs. Like I think part of it's the American sports fan of me that's like how we crown champions here. But I think also it's just fun at the end of the season, and it's not. I mean, you want to say it's unique it's unique when you talk about European football, but look at South and Central America. A lot of those leagues are decided by playoffs. Mexico has actually 2 playoffs every year. In 2 different in the spring and the fall. So it's I don't think it's like the most unique thing in soccer, but it is. I think it makes MLS sort of stand out
Yeah.
for U.S. soccer fans that are, we call them Euro snobs, I guess, the people that prefer the Premier League. And I get it, right? It's a better product, but sometimes you got to root for the local and go to the stadium yourself. So I see
Mate.
both sides of that.
You want to see the first match day? I was not happy.
Yo, you touched on Mexico. I want to ask about, because I heard recently that there were big talks about merging the 2 leagues, right? Like creating a relegation system as well. Does that look like something that's going to happen?
Yeah, so over at the Striker Texas, sorry, I'm kind of dominating this thing, but I can let you guys pitch in on this. The Mexico thing, like we're in Texas. The closest professional teams to Austin, other than Dallas and Houston, are the teams in Monterrey and Tigres. So it has been interesting to watch and watch a lot of Tigres fans, which is probably the most popular professional soccer team in Austin. Those fans sort of jump on the Austin FC bandwagon, and that's led to a lot of the environment that you see in the stadium. Yeah. But also what I think is interesting about that is talking to John Arnold, who is our FC Dallas writer for the Striker Texas, but also does a ton of coverage on CONCACAF, the Mexican national team. And he's been following this Liga MX merger idea for a long time. And really what sprung from it, and I think this is what we're going to see, for at least for the immediate future, is the Leagues Cup, which is kind of been a joke to some, but it's a competition where you get to, it's all in the United States, but the Mexican teams, 4 Mexican teams come and play 4 MLS teams in a single elimination tournament, and it goes to the end, and you crown a champion. And then they have the Campeones Cup as well, and obviously CONCACAF Champions League. I don't know if like the Leagues Cup will eventually replace CONCACAF Champions League, but I don't know that we'll ever see like a full merger, I guess is what I'm saying. Or at least that's what John's opinion is that these leagues are going to continue to partner in ways like I'll be at the All-Star game in a couple weeks in Los Angeles, and this is the first of its kind. The best players in MLS are going to play against the best players from Liga MX, and it's going to be so much fun. I think a lot of us have been wanting to see that for years, as just sort of a measuring stick and just a fun way for those 2 fan bases to interact. Because I say this all the time: the most popular professional sports team in the United States is not the Dallas Cowboys, it's not the New York Yankees, it's the Mexican national team. That is the team that has the highest TV ratings. That is the team that draws the most dollars, the most fans to stadiums every time they play. And they play more home games in Dallas now than they do in Mexico City. It's amazing. That's
really interesting.
Yeah. So like the market is here, and the Mexican owners see that. They know that there's money to be made, and I think it's only good for MLS as well if you keep having those games. But sorry, I don't want to keep piping up. I just thought I had plenty to say on that one.
Yeah, no, good. Morgan, James, do you have anything to add to that?
Go ahead, Morgan.
Nah, go ahead.
Yeah. All I was going to say is, for me, it's just a matter of a personal opinion. For me, is I I'm happy the way things are. I don't want to see a merger between the two leagues. I think it's when you start messing around with two different nations teams, it becomes a little bit messy because then you got to think about, does it become then a northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast conferences? You've got to think about the travel. You've got to think about localities and things like that. And it just becomes, to me, it just screams mess and disorganization. And the way they've got the Leagues Cup, I kind of like the idea behind it. I think it could still be improved, but it's a step in the right direction.
Certainly.
And then you've got the MLS All Stars game, which timing wise for MLS isn't great because you've got some players who will play a couple of games in a very short space of time when they're selected for the All Stars. But it's another good measuring stick to see how well and how much progress the MLS has made compared to Liga MX.
I want to go back to those All-Star games there because I do have questions, but I get your points, but you know, like a merger between these two strong leagues, and you know, when you're talking about football in the Americas, right? I still say that Brazil's probably the best league. You have Argentina that's probably in second. I'd say Mexico and the MLS are really close as well. Those are most likely the four biggest leagues. I'd say a merger would guarantee you guys being the biggest league in the continent. Like, not guarantee, you know. Like, there's always a lot of talent coming from Brazil and Argentina. It is kind of crazy, but Mexico as well. Like, I'm actually surprised that Mexico never reached like bigger heights because they're absolutely nuts about football and they have a lot of talent. They play from like. Go ahead.
I think a big issue with the whole Liga MX MLS merger idea is just how rapidly MLS is expanding. I mean, you added 2 teams last year, 1 team this year.
Yeah.
You're adding 2 next year, 1 the year after that. It may be 10 years down the road, but you also can't have a league that's, 50 teams. Because
that's where I think the promotion relegation conversation starts to come in. But then these owners that have put their investment into, having a top division team, they're not going to go for that. And the other thing is with, I think that the MLS is seeing that, or Liga MX is seeing that the ceiling is much higher for MLS than it is for Liga MX.
Yeah.
Liga MX is great and it's better than MLS now, but I think that they realize that players want to go live in the United States. I mean, that's one of the biggest draws for MLS teams of bringing players here. And so I think Liga MX wants to get as involved as they can with MLS because they want to ride that train too, and they want to reach that ceiling that MLS has the potential to reach. And whether that's 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line, it's hard to predict. But that it's an interesting conversation that comes up a lot because it should come up a lot. It's 2 very big leagues in 2 very big countries, and one football mad country in Mexico, and one country that's still getting its sea legs a little bit compared to these others.
Yeah. Okay.
Hang on a minute.
What?
You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this.
What am I gonna love, dude?
Sounds like he's drawing something.
It does. I don't
trust that.
No, it's nothing. No, it's not. It's fine.
You should never trust him.
Simple answer.
That's why they wanted the Super League.
Yes. Yeah. I believe most people are painfully aware of that. Yeah.
But I mean, the Super League thing, it's funny to watch as an American sports fan because that's just the way professional sports work in this country. And there's so many American owners in the Premier League now that it's like, well, why can't we have it that way?
He's one of them.
I know he is. Do
you want him back?
I don't think he even knows he owns the Colorado Rapids. Somebody should remind him that.
All right.
I get with that. It's just like when that happened, the problem is obviously the way things work in English football and the way it's been built and brought up throughout the years since like the 1800s. When that happened, and everyone, it looked like it was going to happen. To me, obviously, Arsenal was one of the 3 clubs in England that have made the history of the English football game. it was like, I'm gonna have to turn my back on this club. I can't support my club and go through this because you're throwing that all away. Your heritage, what you've won, everything that made traditions, like standards, morals, everything that you hold dear to the club has just gone sold out the window because of one owner wanting to be basically greedy. I'm not for that.
Yeah.
So you'd have to literally stop supporting your club, which to me at the time was tearing me apart. It's lucky I only lasted a week.
That was a miserable episode in our lives. It truly was.
Yeah.
It truly was.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not because of the concept of the Super League. Like I get that attempt. They want stability. They think about the money, but it was just so embarrassing.
Yeah, but then you look at Barcelona.
You get the concepts, and I get the reason why Barcelona and Real Madrid and why they're still in it because they're in so much debt. And I get that. It's just like you're doing it amidst the pandemic, right? You've already got billions in your pocket, and everyone's struggling, and you want more.
Yeah.
You want more.
It was ill-timed, wasn't it?
And I'm just, but and you could tell they've been planning it for months while the pandemic's going on. What world do they live in? Honestly,
seriously,
I can't.
I'm surprised that Tottenham got invited to that, considering I think they're just fodder in the mix.
No, but even I'm surprised that Arsenal saying they said, "Hang on, this is supposed to be a European Super League. We ain't won the Champions League. How are we in it?
You'd finish 4th. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
The people didn't win it.
Yo, by the way, Morgan, in this channel, we have a show called Gunners from All Corners, where it's Arsenal fans from all over the globe. We have one that's united across the globe. We're gonna create one for Tottenham called Why Bother, if you want to be a part of that.
That perfectly describes every single professional sports team I follow.
Yeah, should we get into that?
2 years in, why bother?
Should we get into that Miami article on The Athletic today? Oh my gosh!
I've got another title for it.
Come on. That report is like 6 months old.
You've got another one.
All of us already knew about that.
You've got another one.
What's
you got
that,
another one. You got another one you could call it. You call it the cock on the ball.
What?
The cock on the ball.
But
I mean, it is their badge.
Chris just mentioned, Inter Miami just had another, article come out in The Athletic today because they can't stop talking about us. And truly, it details that we're a mess of a club. There's no denying it. You can ask any Miami supporter. We've been waiting for this team ever since the Fusion folded in 2002. And
join the club.
Inter Miami has been, for 7 years running, we've been told, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah.
Then it comes and everything happened like that. It was brand first before any sort of a team. We signed 21 players before we signed a coach.
Wow.
And the coach comes here and he goes, I fucking hate all of these guys. And goes out and says, okay, I want this guy named Rodolfo Pizarro. Pizarro comes, scores the first goal in the club's history, and has done jack all since then. And it details how things are changing ever since. I don't know how familiar you guys are with just how much we messed up last year.
We're not. If you want to tell us that.
So,
how many TPs did you have?
5.
5, 2 over the limit.
Wow.
Yeah, you're allowed to have 3, which I actually commend Jorge Mas for just going for it.
Well, there's always been there's been teams who've always tried to get around it. You look at Galaxy when they had Zlatan and Alessandrini and a couple of their players. They were trying to sort out DP contracts, but they messed up on that one.
This time, it was a pissed off owner that reported us to the league's head office. One of our very own owners reported us to the league office and was like,
"Wow,
hey,
what? Sorry,
yeah,
an Inter Miami owner reported your own club."
Yep. Yep.
What? I didn't know
Clower,
that.
right?
What are the players over that means the players over the salary cap, right? Like what
Yeah.
are those
So
players?
yeah, designated player for those who don't know, basically the max salary in MLS is what is it now? 625, 625,000, around 650,000. But
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
pay players more than that. There's multiple ways to do that. The biggest one is designated players. So you can pay a guy like Gonzalo Higuain. How much is he making? Like $7 million, something like that.
$7.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah, 7.5 a year. So the 625 is paid by the league, and then the owner pays the rest. So
And
so
I
that
thought the English
allows
Premier had a problem.
it was basically the David Beckham rule, right? They wanted to bring David Beckham in. He doesn't fit in the salary cap. So how do you get him into the league? You create a rule to be able to sign big name players, and it's worked fairly well to bring, like Wayne Rooney. That's how Wayne Rooney got here. Every big name that you can think of that's come over here, and now it's younger players, more players in their prime. But the thing is like I think that a lot of owners like Jorge Mas want to spend on more good players, but they're not allowed to within the confines of the league rules. So it's actually kind of good. I think it's not good for our resident Miami fan here who's got to watch his team struggle now because they broke the rules. But I think it's good for the league to have owners that are pushing the envelope like that, right? To create more DP spots, to create more spending in the league, to bring more good players into the league. I mean, there's like who can really? Is it bad that Blaise Matuidi and Gonzalo Higuain are playing in MLS now? Like,
No, it's awesome. Right?
it's good, right? But
it's cool.
they broke the rules to do that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Do
Like,
you see that salary?
We have
that salary
a club in England.
cap
Does that.
like growing a little bit because that seems really low. Like that's a
So-
little over 50K a month, right?
Here's the issue with MLS. We don't know any of this. There's nowhere that we can go and find out, how many DPs does Miami have? How many what they call TAM players does Miami have? How close are we to the salary cap?
Yeah.
All of this information, for some reason, is hidden from us. In the NBA, for example, you can go out and see, okay, the Miami Heat have, $2 million left before they're over the salary cap. And, same thing in the NHLs, the NFL, all the big leagues here in the US.
Yeah.
With MLS, everything's a secret. Once a year, we get told what everybody's making, but that's it.
Yeah.
And, the whole Miami scandal revealed that some owners do want to pay. They want to pay to play. They want to pay players more to get more players here.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you do have a lot of teams in MLS still that they just
a lot of those
gonna
older
invest
owners,
as little money as they can into this club.
Yeah, they're
Whatever
just
the
seeing
club
the
makes is
value of
fine.
the club skyrocket, and they're not spending money to win. And they're able to stay afloat and to look like they have a decent team because the limits that are put in place keep all the teams spending almost the same exact amount of money.
Yeah, the last thing that we want though is for the limits to be completely gone and then have clubs spending beyond their means and then potentially losing clubs. And you're looking at the Barcelona situation where
there's a middle ground there, right?
Yeah.
And that's where MLS is as a league as a whole right now. I think is trying to figure out how far do they want to push it, and how many owners are going to fall by the wayside if they do push it farther.
But why do you guys think the salary cap is like towards the players, right? Because I'm used to seeing salary cap for the team overall. That means like you can pay like half the salary cap for one guy, like bring Messi, then you hire a bunch of donkeys to play alongside him. But
I mean, like the total salary cap is $4.5 million. It's gonna up in the next few years under the new collective bargaining agreement between the players union and Major League Soccer. So basically, the players union and Major League Soccer have created this model together. Although, like the owners have had a lot more leverage, right? Mm-hmm. And so, basically, there's the $4.5 million salary cap isn't really the salary cap because then you have like other mechanisms like targeted allocation money. Now we just lost like half your audience here. I think once we start bringing up TAM and GAM, but
just don't do that.
But it just allows you to bring. So like, there's more than 3 players on each MLS roster that are making more than $650,000.
Yep.
But there's just other ways that you're able to do that within the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in Miami and then you just forget the rules, you just bring in whoever you want.
Oh no, we pay you cash under the table, go to Miami underneath the toilet with the rest of your payment.
Nice.
Yeah.
But
It's been like Man City with their UEFA payments.
Has always been parity. They don't want a La Liga where there's 3 clear top teams. You have Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. You don't want a Prem where there's 2 clear top teams right now, City and Chelsea. Oh, you definitely don't want a Ligue 1 where there's PSG. And
well, I think this season you've also got Man United and Chelsea as well. You got Man United and Liverpool in there as well.
No, you get his
you got
point.
4 teams.
The
you
normal
got 4
4
teams. The top 4 pretty much closed off this season.
The whole goal of Major League Soccer's owners. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, MLS doesn't want that. They want that any year, any team can potentially, win it all. No team is spending, $70 million on their payroll while the team they're playing is, a bunch of guys that they signed from the pub last night.
Exactly. You're obviously not going to. The FA, the English FA and UEFA has corrupted each other. They're not going to do that because of the amount of money in it. That's what I think. That's lovely. What you like about sports in general. I think that's why some people watch the Championship. If you watch Bournemouth's story, like they went from League One or like literal obscurity to League One, then Eddie Howe took from League One to Championship to the Premier League, right? And not just did it by qualifying for the playoffs, he won both championships, right? So you get those sort of stories in Championship. You don't get that in the Premier League. You'll never see a Leicester again, probably for
it'll be an absolute miracle.
Be absolute miracle.
It was a miracle.
It was.
But now you won't get it because they spend so much money, and like you see, I watch different sports, and the other part of my content I do which is F1 content, they're already doing next year, bringing it all together, with an equal car, equal spending budgets, equal caps on certain things, on upgrades and stuff to make it more competitive so that the bottom teams could try and win. So that's what I think football should try and do, but the UEFA and FA are that corrupt with football.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch European soccer fans in the United States argue that the Premier League should have a salary cap, and then talk about how MLS sucks because they don't pay players enough.
But it don't. But and I know. But for the FA, it won't work because the FA, they get so much more money off TV and stuff when these biggest players come to the league. So it's not gonna work.
The time that you're allowed to talk about English football is about to expire.
Okay.
No, and a big part of it is especially in that talk to parity, when Inter Miami first launched, we're one of 2 clubs without a jersey sponsor. There were talks of a almost $250 million deal with Qatar Airways to be our shirt sponsor. And the issue is with that is, what good is $250 million in MLS?
Right. That makes sense.
What's the point? We're going to pay Gonzalo another
and build you a stadium.
Hot dogs.
Stadium talk.
Yeah. All right. I want to move on to.
We already built one stadium, and we're going to move from it in 2 years anyway.
That's what I'm saying. That's the only thing is that the owners in MLS want to spend all their money on is building infrastructure because it's real estate.
Yeah. Right. We need to go back to the league as well, but just to give Steven some time to think as well, right? I want to ask the 3 of you, your connection with football. I'm going to start with James because the questions I'm going to be asking Chris and Morgan are sort of similar. So James, how did that happen? Did you ever live in DC? How did that love for the MLS and for DC United happen?
I'll try and cut the stories down a little bit because it is a little bit of a lengthy one, but it all started in '96 so my team, Middlesbrough, over here in the UK, they sold a player called Jaime Moreno over to DC United. So that was kind of my first sort of introduction into MLS and to DC United. And granted, I was only 8 at the time, so my first thought was, "Oh, Americans play soccer." That was that was my first thought. Completely forgot about the '94 World Cup because obviously England didn't make it to that one. But so I kind of just knew of them, but didn't really follow them that time until 2004 when Freddie Adu came along. So obviously he was this massive starlet, wonder kid of the league, going to be the next Pele, this, that, and the other. But it started to get to the time when I could actually start following the league a little bit more. There was Football Manager, which is the game I still play to this day and still manage DC on. And it just started to be a case. I was at college, so I was able to look up online how the scores were, watch some highlights, and just kept in touch with the club ever since then. And then obviously Sky Sports started showing started showing MLS over here. And I think it was about 2015. So when New York City and Orlando came along, and I was able to watch it week in, week out from that. And then I was actually able to go to my first game back in 2018. It was the first time I'd been to the States. I was on a holiday, family holiday in Orlando. And it was just a case of just going online, just looking at the fixture list and thinking, are there any games in DC when I'm out there? And there was. So I just went to my dad and just said, can I go to DC? Just for a few days, go to a game. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. And I was like, it is on your birthday. And he looked at me and went, yeah, go on. Why not? So me and my wife went out there, went to DC, fell in love with the city. And it just kind of cemented the fact that I love the club and everything about the country. Right. It was brilliant. And DC UK came along shortly after that.
All right. Well, by the way, I forgot to mention that earlier, but Jim Masnor, he couldn't be with us today, but he did send hello.
Yes.
We plan on doing a show with him later on as well. It was a shame that he was too busy today, but yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna leave the why should Steven support DC for later. That's probably gonna wrap up the show. But okay, let's go to Morgan. What I want to know, because I'm interested because Austin's even more recent than that, but Inter Miami's quite new. So what was your relationship with football before? Did you support anyone in the US before? How? Yeah, just explain your story.
I'm a Miami native, but I come from French and English parents. So obviously the first sport I was put in as a kid was soccer, and grew up down here. Back when I was a kid, we still had the Fusion, which was Miami's last pro soccer team. They folded, and we went into this hiatus. We had the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, which, if you look into the history of American soccer, was arguably one of the powerhouses. If you look at some of their rosters, they had guys like Pele, the guy that just passed away yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Gerd Muller?
No, Gerd Muller. Yeah.
Gerd Muller.
They had everybody. So I went to their matches as a kid. I played, and then 8 years ago, it was announced that David Beckham, who as part of his contract was allowed to buy a new MLS location for only $25 million.
That's so insane.
Picked Miami. And for 6 years, we waited and dealt with 4 different stadium sites getting rejected because the city of Miami's greedy. And last year, the club finally launched. I have midfield season tickets, and then actually this year, I am traveling to every single match. Hence the name IMCF Traveler. I have gone to every single match this season that has been played with a crowd. There's only been one match played behind closed doors, and every single other match I've been to, and it's cost me a few pounds, but it's been well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this season's a lot easier to do that, right? Because of the area restrictions, like all that.
There's just more open stadiums. I mean, last year, once everything shut down in March,
Yeah.
the league played in basically a bubble. They played a little mini tournament. And then
Right.
after that, pretty much everything was played behind closed doors. But the second that we started playing behind open doors and they allowed supporters in again, I was back at the matches. And this year, it's every single match. I have yet to miss one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yo, this David Beckham contract. Don't you wish Arsenal did that, Steven? Just went to Messi and said, "Hey, you can play for us in 5 years' time. You can buy the club for like $100." I wish we did that.
Yeah, you could probably ask Messi if you could try and buy us out.
Right, Chris. What about you? What about you?
Yeah, so I'm actually more of a journalist than I am a fan. But I grew up in rural Ohio of all places, which will be important here in a second. So I actually grew up not a soccer fan. I grew up and I started playing when I was young, but didn't really know about global soccer. And then the 2006 World Cup came around when I was 14. And I just got hooked, like the U.S. team wasn't any good that year, obviously, but Thierry Henry and
that was a good World Cup.
It was a great World Cup. It was a great World Cup. I just remember falling in love with Thierry Henry and Zizou, who, even though he was at the latter stage of his career, I learned about him and watched a ton of YouTube videos and just got completely engrossed in world soccer. And so then I went a path that I think a lot of us go, which is that I got into the Premier League, tried to figure out what club I wanted to support. I also really liked that Argentina team in the 2006 World Cup and a guy named Carlos Tevez. So when he made the switch from Man U to Man City, I decided I was going to root for City, which has turned out
the right team.
Has turned out pretty well. And then I got more into MLS, and so I started going to Columbus Crew games when I was in college at Ashland University in Ohio. So it was really interesting because when I moved down here, I moved here in 2016 with my girlfriend. No job, no soccer team in Austin, and then all of a sudden, a year later, the Columbus Crew announced that they were trying to pick up and move to Austin, where I was located. So I kind of was interning with the newspaper and was like, hey, I kind of know both sides of this, kind of getting to know people in the Austin soccer community. I already know people in Columbus, and I kind of understand the dynamics around the Crew situation. So I've been following this team since before it was even real. I've been, covering the city council stuff, the building of the stadium. Obviously, the Crew ended up staying, and I'm very happy that things turned out the way they did with the Crew staying with committed ownership, a new stadium, and Austin FC getting to take off kind of on its own. Obviously, with Anthony Precourt as the owner, and just watching this fan base grow and watching them set records for season tickets and. The city's really embraced its first professional sports team, which I think is a big part of the story here in Austin. But also the Latin flavor to game day is something that isn't really, it's been hard. I think Miami's one of those places where it has worked. Houston's struggled at times to get their large population of soccer fans to care about the Dynamo. And here in Austin, it sounds like you're in a stadium in Mexico. The chants and the songs and the trumpets and the drums, go check it out because Los Verdes and La Murga are bringing the noise, and it's been really cool to see. Now they just got to figure out how to score some goals, and that's sort of what I've been writing about the last couple of weeks is they can't score a damn goal even at home. They've scored 13 goals in 18 matches. So we'll see if they can get that problem fixed. And then the club, I think, should be well on its way to being, if not a power, then at least relevant in the MLS for the years to come.
Okay.
Yeah, the best way I like to describe Austin right now is just all right.
I knew we couldn't get out of here without talking about McConaughey.
My favorite actor.
What's the connection? Is he from Austin?
He's from Texas. He lives in Austin. He has since college, I think. Other than obviously when he was in LA, when he's in LA doing movies, but his family's still here, and he lives in Austin. His wife's actually Brazilian, which I think is one of the reasons that he got so into buying. Well, he's part owner of Austin FC.
Oh, nice!
So,
I did not know that.
So
then all right, it is. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So he was on the field the first home game with the bongos, the drums, and helping lead some cheers. He actually hasn't been at every home game though, because I think his grandmother, one of his family members lives with them, and he's worried about COVID. So I actually haven't seen a lot of him, but it's a big part of this club's story, I think, especially in the media. I mean, everyone wants to ask me about McConaughey. I'm like, yeah, I guess he's part of the team. I prefer to focus on the soccer, but that's just the soccer nerd in me. So,
all right, nice. Well, I want to get to the main players that are playing there right now, and if we do have time to get into the past a little bit too, we'll do that. But just really quickly, I did ask Chris briefly about that before we went live. I want to ask about the draft system and the All-Star games as well, because those are two really big traditions in American sports. If you guys are watching this, I hope you know what drafts are. If someone has a really fast way of explaining that, great, but I would probably take longer than I can. But I want to know how the drafting system works into the MLS. Like I can't imagine it being nearly as relevant as it is for American football or for basketball. I just can't. But I'm intrigued to see. Chris did tell me that there's a couple of relevant players that come from the drafting system every season. And the All-Star games, do they have mini games like the dunk contest and the 3-point shootout? How does that work? Is it just a game, or do they actually have those activities? You can whoever wants to answer whatever.
So, like with everything in MLS, the draft is also overly complicated.
Okay.
You have some players that are Generation Adidas, some that are homegrown and therefore not eligible to be drafted. They can only sign with a specific club for a specific period of time. And then you have everybody else from the colleges. They can elect to be drafted. They can sign a pro contract. You can have players who already have signed a pro contract with another team, not in MLS, but in another division of American soccer, and then draft them by an MLS team. But yeah, every few years somebody relevant comes out. 2 years ago that was Dale DK, the most overrated American striker.
Sounds like they have something to say about that, but you go ahead.
Yeah, come on. He's no way and he plays for Orlando. Everybody that plays for Orlando is somewhat dog shit.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
Pull up those standings again.
No, leave him. Put him away.
It says a lot about someone who supports Tottenham.
Yeah, spot on.
Did I say that? Sorry.
We play them in I think a week and a half. We play them in Orlando again. But yeah, that's okay. We drew them a few weeks ago. It's fine. It's whatever. They can sit there in fourth place and remember they used to be dog shit too. Any Orlando fans listening, I'd like to remind you guys that we've made the playoffs as many times as you guys have, and you've been around for 6 years, and we've been around for 1.
Ooh. Okay.
But didn't you get into the play-ins rather than the playoffs?
Shut the hell up! It counts. Go on Wikipedia. Go on the MLS website. It said we were in the playoffs. That's all I care about.
I'm sorry. To me, it does sounds like a Spurs fan coming to me. It's like, oh, we've been in the same amount of Champions League finals you, Stephen. You're an Arsenal spawn. I'm like, oh, shut up in the corner. Let me know when you win a title, please.
Stephen, no prem talk.
What? fuck?
No, we don't have time, dude. We don't have time. There's plenty to talk about in the MLS.
And
What
then,
about the All-Star game? I mean,
So-
I'm still kind of confused about the draft system, if I'm being honest.
it's all right. Everything about MLS is confusing.
The
And then
draft. The
also-
thing to know about the draft is that it's almost irrelevant at this point. But there have been some players that have come out of college.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Pereira for Austin FC was the number one overall pick, and he's been one of their best midfielders this year. So I mean, there's players that come out of there, and like Jack Harrison, who's in the Premier League now, came out of the Super Draft. So there's definitely good players.
There's definitely it's usually just 1 or 2 per season,
right?
But there's never you're never going to get a super draft where you're going to have like 10 players come out of it and they're all amazing. It's never going to happen. But 1 or 2 per year is a good year.
It's not like the other American leagues where every single top 10 pick is guaranteed to be a talent on your team for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
In MLS, you're lucky if 1 or 2 out of all the players that are drafted.
Yeah, but the other thing is like a lot of players. And a lot of teams are producing their own players, so they don't have to go to college anymore. So they're going through the academy.
I was going to team like Philadelphia, who for 2 years in a row has traded every single one of their draft picks for pennies on the dollar because they don't care. They don't need it.
Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna ask that. So they do have youth systems then, because I was gonna ask what the alternative is.
Yeah.
So that's where most of the most impressive players like Alphonso Davies come from.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a new competition that's being set up there. MLS Next, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So that's a new tournament, a new competition where it feels like there's about 1,000 clubs entering into that league, because it's American and there's so many places that you can go to. But you've got a lot of academy teams in there. Some of the teams that were in USL are moving over to this league. It's becoming it's a bit like the Premier League 2 in my eye. That's how I kind of make sense of it. That's how it looks like it's going to be. But it's just a shame that not every team's like kind of reserve team as such is going to be in there, because I know DC's B team, Loudoun United, are sticking with USL rather than moving to this MLS Next. But then we've got our normal academy team that's going into it. It feels a bit bonkers.
Yeah, and not every reserve team or B team in MLS is decent. You have a club like Inter Miami where we send some of our guys there. We've loaned some of our guys elsewhere. One of our DPs from last year actually plays on one of those reserve teams and is on the bench for them. So
wait, what? I didn't realize he was on the
that's
bench.
Pellegrini, isn't it?
No, Pellegrini, we just loaned back to Argentina. Andres Reyes was supposed to be a DP, and he plays for New York Red Bulls reserve team and doesn't start.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
That's horrendous.
All right. What about the All-Star games? I'm curious about that one. Like I've never heard of
I'll be at my first All-Star game, I guess in 2 weeks, the 25th of August out in LA. I'm sure you guys have tuned in. Maybe that's the only exposure that a lot of your viewers have maybe had to MLS, because if you're a Chelsea fan, Chelsea came over and played in the All-Star game a few years ago. So what it used to be is that MLS would pick its all-stars, and they would play against a super club from Europe. I think Tottenham's come over. I just called Tottenham a super club. I think, did Arsenal ever come over and play in the All-Star game? I know Manchester United did.
Man City did. That's when Balotelli had that.
That was against the LA Galaxy, I think.
Flick that missed and then got subbed off.
Yeah. But I mean, it's been kind of a fun thing for MLS to kind of put itself in the shop window and have fans of other clubs pay attention for a night. But now I think the new format's really intriguing to me. I'm excited to get to LA and to be able to talk to some people about, some fans especially, about how they see MLS versus Liga MX and just have a big Hollywood event around those two leagues. I think it's going to be really fun, and I think it's something
that's
that
a new format. It's the all stars of both leagues.
Both leagues, yeah. So I don't think that Liga MX has ever done an all-star game or had an all-star team, and so I think that those fans are really excited to see all those players play together too. So
it's a very American culture.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think they do because to be honest, I generally don't watch the all-star games mainly because DC United players generally aren't involved in it.
Yeah,
but two,
same here this year.
Yeah, so we've
Austin
got no
doesn't have
players in
any
it.
either. Austin doesn't have any either.
But then because of that and the timing it's on, it's like a 1 a.m. time kickoff for me. So, but from what I've seen in the past is they do a lot of sort of mini games the night before.
Yeah, the night before they're going to do a skills challenge.
Yeah,
so that should be kind of fun.
That's quite cool. Because I remember Rudy doing that.
Yeah, it's like like the little games you can play in FIFA, like with the targets and stuff.
Yeah,
they'll set that up in real life and have some of the all stars from both leagues just kind of compete against each other and like have a little fun format.
I think they get mic'd up as well, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think they will be.
That's dope.
Good chance to test out your Spanish.
I need to test out my English first.
Fun. After I remember like Dwight Howard winning the dunk contest in 2009. I think like that was a big moment in my life. Like he was my favorite player back then. So I did not know that the MLS had something similar to that. That's really cool.
It's only the second year of it, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Have the MLS All Stars ever beat one of those super teams?
They have, yeah. I can't remember how many times what the record is, but
they generally do all right. It's usually quite a close game.
Yeah, those games. I mean, the teams are usually in preseason, and so sometimes the big players will play, sometimes they won't, and I don't know. I feel like those games just kind of go in one year out the other. I kind of forget that they even happen, except for when it's being shoved down my throat every summer.
And they bring out all the theatrics for it. I mean, you'll find things like the goalies and the outfield players will be mic'd up. There's during a game a few years ago where literally the goalie had an earpiece in and was talking to the broadcast.
I think that was Guzan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Forgot
because it was at the Mercedes-Benz, if I remember rightly, because I think it was the year that opened.
Oh, and he literally made a save and then was like, I knew he was going there. On the broadcast in live time. Like he'd turn around, kick to goal kick and was like, that didn't feel right. So they bring out the whole theatrics because for a casual American sports fan that is maybe just watching this because it popped up on the screen and it's all-star game. They're watching this and they're like, this is actually pretty cool. Maybe I can get into this. Who's my local team? Maybe I'll go to a game. And then they go to a game and maybe they get hooked. And now you just got a new fan.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing about the MLS All-Star Game that's different than the other All-Star Games is that the NBA All-Star Game is for NBA fans. Yeah, MLS All-Star Game is not for MLS fans. It's for fans outside of the league who maybe will stumble upon it.
It's for the casuals.
Yeah. So I think a lot of MLS fans actually kind of despise the All-Star Game.
Especially when it affects the league.
Yeah.
Your team.
Right.
No, I think like Orlando plays 2 days after the All-Star Game back in Orlando against Miami. And yet they're sending guys like Nani and Pedro Gillespie to that game.
Yeah.
And, now they have to come back and play what should be an important league match after playing this pretty much meaningless All-Star Game match where, the incentive, which in MLS is big, is like $500,000 or like you win $1 million, which in MLS sure is big because half these players make, what my nan makes. And that's living off the government cheese. So for a lot of the bigger players in the league, they really rather not do it, and a lot of true fans rather not send their players to it.
Yeah
That
makes
I was
sense.
dreading it because it was just like you're looking at because I think the fans vote for a lot of the players who go to these. So you've got to do tactical voting. It's like when you're playing politics, you tactically vote for the ones that you think are the least worst out of the lot. But yeah, for us, I think we've got Philadelphia Union a couple of days after. So I was just like, you go on and vote for. Let's have all the Philly Union players playing in that game.
And that especially happened this year. I mean, there's I think 2 teams that are both sending 6 players or 5 or 6 players, and that ends up being almost half the team. So I think like half the teams aren't even represented. So for somebody like me who's an Inter Miami fan, why the hell am I going to watch this game?
Wait, Higuain is not there?
Well, no.
Did you not see what he said about the league?
Yeah, he's fat and dark and smokes on the sidelines. No, he's not there. Blaise Matuidi 3 weeks ago, we were actually losing, and Paul Pogba and Kimpembe were at the match, and Matuidi got subbed off at halftime, walked off the bench, took a shower, and then hung out with them instead in their suite for the rest of the match.
What? That's brutal.
That's awesome.
That is absolutely brutal.
And the thing is with Inter Miami Stadium, if you're not familiar, all of our suites are on the very bottom. They're on the right next to the pitch. So fans saw this happen. They saw out of nowhere a figure they recognized show up in the box with Paul Pogba, Chad Ochocinco, and Kimpembe for the entire second half.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, so no Inter Miami players are at this. We've showed the standings enough. We don't need to show them again. But there's a very good reason why none of them belong there.
I apologize because the standings are gonna pop up like just for 1 second because I want to focus on the players right now. I apologize.
Brilliant.
Okay. Where are the
Miley, you had that, dude.
I mean, Inter Miami don't even fit on that table right down on the screen.
Yeah,
Where's Austin?
Yeah, they're here. They're here.
Oh, there they are. There they are.
Austin's last in the West.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, but that's the thing. Like, you guys were just born. I think it's really awkward for a team to just like start out of thin air.
Yeah, but they have enough resources to do well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's no real excuses in MLS for. I mean, there are because it's a whole new group of players, right?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
And saying that with actually horrible comedic timing, I need to go. I have a girlfriend I have to go see after a long day of work.
Okay.
So,
yeah, of course, man.
It was a pleasure chatting with you all.
Dude, if you wanna, 1 second. Yeah, if you wanna shout out your socials, like you're always welcome to come back.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we have one show in the works that's probably gonna premiere like in a month or so, where we're gonna be talking about football in the American continent often, like once every 2 weeks or once every week. So you guys are gonna have plenty of opportunities to come back and yeah, thank you so much for joining, man. And
yeah, no problem. And for everybody watching, Vamos Miami, screw Orlando City. Follow me on Twitter. I am CF Traveler. I'm going to every single Inter Miami match this year, home and away. So, big things coming up for me, and hopefully big things for this club once Gonzalo puts out the cigarette. So thanks again for having me, guys. And onwards and upwards to hopefully a better second half of the season for us.
All right, man. Good
Great
luck.
to talk to you.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
There you go.
Catch you later. All right. So I know we've hit the hour mark already, so I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. I just want to talk about the players that are performing well, because it's always interesting to see what's written there. I can't read it.
Just look at Ola Kamara right there. So,
Steven, you're the ones who gave us that word, so I don't know what you want us to do with it. Soccer came from you.
Yeah, it's true. I'm fine with saying soccer, and I obviously an Englishman.
Ooh,
so
that's gotta hurt you a little bit, Steven.
I mean, it comes from association, soccer and
I've always known
association.
it to be football because you play it with your feet, but there you go. I've always known it to be football.
And football you play with your hands. It doesn't make any in any
No.
sense. But that's America for you.
That's sports.
Yeah, I can't
But
give a head on that one.
Right, guys. Like, is any of these players some of the most relevant, like some of the better players in the MLS, or is it more of a coincidence, just like good systems? These top scorers, for example.
So I'm going to take this one because obviously we've got a player in the top scorer list right there.
Okay.
So Ola Kamara, he signed for us back in 2019 as the replacement for Wayne Rooney. So big shoes to fill, to say the least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And let's put it this way, he didn't have the best of starts with the club. He ended up last season, and this just shows how bad we were. Last season, he was our top scorer with 3 goals. So pretty ropey, to say the least. But this season, we've brought in, obviously, new head coach with Hernan Losada, who I'm just going to big up this one because I was lucky enough to interview him when he joined the podcast back in the start of the season, when he first joined the club. So that was awesome. But the whole Losada Bowl system that we're playing at the moment is very much playing into Ola Kamara's hands. Gressel on the wing has been fantastic for us. He's been putting crosses in on a plate, and Ola Kamara is leading in terms of minutes per goal in the league. And he's scoring every 53 minutes off the top of my head, I want to say.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. So, I mean, he gets subbed off pretty much every game after about 70 minutes normally. And sometimes he comes off at halftime, depending on how many games we've got during the week.
Is it because his fitness is now like up to?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's his age more than anything.
Okay.
He's on the wrong side of 30. So he's getting towards the twilight years of his career.
Yeah.
But he's just this season, something's clicked, and it's just been a case of he'll get a goal, he'll get 2 goals, and he's on a goal scoring run, which we've not had since 2008.
Yeah.
So he's scored in 9 consecutive games now.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So he's on a hot streak at the moment. So he's been fantastic, and it's great for us.
Stephen, when's the last time that happened for us? I don't think I remember anyone scoring 9 games in a row for us.
When was the last time someone scored 9 goals?
That's a little harsh.
Sorry.
A little harsh.
I mean, Oba's been all right for you.
Before Mikel Arteta turned
all right. What about these other guys? Like the top scorer right now is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue that Raul Ruidiaz is the best player in MLS. At least has been this season. He scored an unreal goal when he was in Austin a few weeks ago from midfield when Austin was like, Brian Schmetzer put out a team of like 15 and 16-year-olds, which is pretty much a slap in the face to Austin, and said we're going to sit deep and hold you off until halftime, and then brought in the big guns, and Raul Ruidiaz took one off the chest and then sent it into the top corner from about 40 yards. So no arguments from me on Raul Ruidiaz being the best player. He's from Peru. I've got a Peruvian friend who he's always asking me about the Sounders because of Ruidiaz.
Does he play in the national team?
Yes, he does. Yeah. And then Daniel Shalhoub, I think, is one to point out because he's kind of been an up-and-coming player in Kansas City. He's interesting because I think, Marley, you were telling me you came over as a international student, right? Yeah, he did the same. So Daniel Shalhoub came to the Kansas City area from Hungary when he was like 16 or something like that, and they put him in the academy, but he came over there for schooling and then ended up sticking, and he's kind of made a name for himself in Kansas City, and now he's one of the front runners for MVP in the entire league. So got to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to say anything, but I almost joined the MLS as well. You know, I got a mean right foot.
Yeah, the team in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly.
I mean, that's nothing, to be honest, because when you hear about, because I don't watch much of the MLS, but when you hear about Dwayne's gone over there, Nani's gone over there, big players doing big things in the European leagues, and you hear sort of teams also go to China as well, or players go to China, is where because they're reaching maybe like the twilight, they then go to America, they then go to China, and that's why when you sort of like someone got the academy of the actual team is quite different, because when you think about then when you see those players go over there, those big players go over there, you can get this opinion when you go to the MLS of players that have had the peak of their career and now career in America or China.
That's a complete misnomer, and I still run into fans that are like, "Oh, I'll never go to an Austin FC game because I hate MLS because it's just a retirement league." And it's like, dude, have you watched MLS since 2012? Because it's not it's really not.
You get the odd one, but these days you look at some of the top players. You look at likes of Carlos Vela, who came over when he was 26, 27. You look at Blaise Matuidi, he's only 28 and he's playing in MLS. Previously, Pozuelo, who was playing for Toronto in his 20s. No, he's still there. I'm thinking of Giovinco.
I think it's
Italian international.
I think it's getting better now. Time and money's getting more.
Oh, it's getting much better these days.
Dude, they tap into the South American and Central American markets as well really well. They get a lot of exciting Brazilians as well. Brenner just joined the MLS. He's an exciting talent.
That really shocked the hell out of me. Him joining Cincinnati, one of the worst teams in the league, and you get Brenner, who's an up and coming Brazilian wonder kid, joining that, and it's just like, how?
All right,
but that just shows the power behind the league.
I'm gonna have to jump as well. But
of course, Chris. Of course, yeah, dude. Thank you so much for everything. You're always welcome back. Whenever you want to talk about football from everywhere, please join us. Yeah, tell us where to find you. And I forgot to ask Morgan that. Why should Steven support Austin FC? Can you quickly get to that as well?
So you can find me at Chris Bills. You can see how it's spelled down there on that bottom left. I am a co-founder and senior writer for a new publication that you should check out called The Striker Texas. So we cover all the MLS teams and even lower divisions in the great state of Texas. And we might think about branching out even farther than that, maybe sooner than you might think. So check out The Striker Texas if you're interested in some of the best MLS coverage, certainly in our state. But we'll be at the All-Star game. We're sending 2 writers over there. But as far as Austin goes, it's the fans. I mean, that's the funny thing about this club right now is that everybody that goes to a match, they're like, "Oh man, this team didn't score any goals, but I had a great time because the fans put on a show." It's like, well, what a business model when the best part of your product is paying to be there.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Indeed. All right, Chris, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Right. And yeah, I mean, I think we can wrap up pretty soon. James, you have like any of these players on the screen right there? Do you want to point out they're doing? Everyone knows that Nani's like doing bits right now in Orlando, and Bargav joined us really briefly. He didn't really talk. He is from Orlando. It's a shame that he wasn't here for more than 5 seconds, but
no, you got
what? Soteldo's a really exciting player that came. He's Venezuelan, but he came from Brazil. He was playing really well at Santos before going to the MLS. I'd like to know how he's doing. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he's playing for Toronto, who aren't doing very well this year at all. Yeah. So it's a difficult one to really say whether it's because of. I mean, a huge thing is this whole COVID situation that's happened. And Toronto have been playing down in Miami for the majority of the season. They've only recently been able to go back and playing at their home stadium in Canada. Mm-hmm. So it's a tricky one for Toronto. I think they'll start picking up points now that they're back home. And when you look at the way MLS works and the whole results side of things, home form is massively key. So when you're playing away from home as your home, it's just not the same. And I think you look at Austin as well. had a huge stretch where their stadium wasn't ready, so all they've done is played away games as well. So, and it was the same for us back in 2018 when before Audi Field opened up, we played half the season away to start off with, and then we had a stretch at home, and we ended up making the playoffs after being bottom of the league. But just to go back to the players, Sasido is, like I say, it's a difficult one because he's not really had a huge chance to sign. I think we'll see him come good in the second half of the season. But other players there, Cade Cowell, who's a fantastic young player. He really tore us to bits when we played San Jose at the start of the season. He was just one of their massively key players, and it's great to see some really good youth coming through the US ranks because they're ones to watch when they get their World Cup in 2026. I genuinely think they'll be, if finalists, if not quarterfinals, semi-finals, they will be right up there.
You think the US is going to be doing that well?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna get to that actually. Like, obviously, like we usually tend to stay within the hour. We passed that a while ago, and you're left with a lot of questions that I'm gonna try to fly through them here. And that was one of them. Like, who do you expect to win a World Cup before, the US or England for a second time?
I think we've got a good chance in 2022 next year. I think we've got a very good chance.
If we don't England now.
Yeah, talking England.
Okay.
If we don't win it next year, then I genuinely think US will win a World Cup before England does.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And that's when you look at the way they're producing talent. The only reason why US hasn't done well before, in terms of the men's team anyway, is the fact that they've not put the investment in there.
Yeah.
And now the investment is in. We're going to see that bring loads of players to fruition. I mean, you look at some of the stars that they've got at the moment. You look at Gio Reyna, you look at Weston McKennie, you look at Pulisic, you look at, now you're looking at like Daryl DK, Cade Cowell. You've got so many good youth players coming through. You've got their keepers, you look Ethan Hovarth, you've got, I'm not going to say Brad Guzan because he's absolutely awful. Not that I'm bitter about the season that he had at the Borough and he got us relegated, but there we go. You look at Bill Hamid, who plays for DC. He's a fantastic keeper. There's just they've got players across different positions who can play really well, and we're just going to see them getting better and better. They've won the Gold Cup this year. They won the CONCACAF Nations League as well. They've beat Mexico in both finals, and who's their they are their big rivals, and they've always done not that great against them over the last decade. So it just shows you how much they've come on, and it's an exciting time to be watching US soccer because
absolutely,
it's entertaining.
Americans are good at competing. They've always been really, like, you can tell, like, I know the NBA and the NFL, like, they're American sports, right? Like, so there's a bigger tendency of them being the best, but you see the athleticism and the size of those kids, right? Like, it is relevant. Like, and I felt like, in addition to investment, of course, like, most of the best athletes tend to go to other sports. But if that starts to change, dude, imagine LeBron James being a center back. Who's gonna get past him? It's just
There's a guy who plays for DC called Donovan Pines who actually featured in the Gold Cup. He's a young defender, but he's 6'5" and built, and it's just great. And he's quick as well. He has got some absolute pace. You look at the size of him and you think that dude he should not run that quick. And you just see him move across the field, and it's something to behold. It's fantastic. So we're starting to already see that, but the more investment that goes into it and the more time that they get, 2026 is going to be a fantastic World Cup for them.
I'll pay attention.
It's an outside bet.
Fair enough. I'll try to remember that in like 5 years' time. But who would you say are like the three young players that we can expect to see doing well in Europe? Maybe not Europe's top level. I don't know if you have 3 players that you expect to see in like top teams in Europe, but close to that. Like,
I mean, if there was nothing off the table for this one, so
that I pulled out of my butt.
you look at, I think we were talking before we went live, Caden Clark from the Red Bulls, who's recently signed for Leipzig. I'd expect him to do well. Recently, you've had Brendan Aronson, who's gone from the Union over to Salzburg. There's been talks of one of our players, Kevin Paredes, who's a tricky sort of left winger. He looks like he could do well. And then just another one, not to bang on about DC, but I'm going to bang on about DC, obviously. Last year, each year, the Guardian newspaper put out their 50 top players in world football, young players under the age of 17. And Moses Nyman, our sort of deep-lying midfielder, was the only American in that top 50.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, it was just like fantastic. It is absolutely brilliant to see, one, an American making the top 50 in the top young kids in world football, but two, the fact that it was one of our players, one of our homegrowns, and it's not going to be long before he makes the move, which is going to be sad from a selfish point of view. We want to see the best players playing for our club. But if we're saying that we're producing the talent that goes on to become big stars, that's also a fantastic thing, because that means we're doing something right as a club.
All right. We have two Arsenal fans here. I tried staying away from that, but you know how crappy we are right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not great.
It isn't. It isn't. Do you see anyone that right now could be helpful to a team like Arsenal?
You should sign Carlos Vela back.
Jesus, that's depressing. That is depressing.
No, to be fair, since he's moved to LAFC, he has taken the league by storm. He's been fantastic. You just see some of the skills he does is just out of this world. Whether it would be able to translate that into the Premier League, that's another question entirely. But he's been fantastic. Who else? Again, Kate Gallo, as I mentioned before, he could be a good impact sub. And I'm trying to think who else we would have over there.
Am I back?
You
back?
are.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Sorry, I missed like 30 seconds what you just said there. My connection, dude.
No, that's fine. I was just saying, Carlos Vela, Cade Cowell, as I've already mentioned, he would be a good one to come over. And I'm just trying to think who else would be. I know it's a bit of a. We need Jesus. Yes, you. What, Gabriel Jesus?
No,
I don't want Gabriel Jesus.
With Jesus,
I can't. We can't help you with that one.
We do need Jesus. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay, fair shout. That Cade Cowell you're talking about, he's a midfielder, right? Like he's a number 6.
He's more of an attacking sort of midfielder, so I would probably put him as like a number 8 or a number 11 on the wing, something like that.
Yeah, right. Awesome, guys. Matt's right. 7 people watching. Smash the like, y'all. I didn't shout that out once, just because I was really I was entertained here in the conversation. But if you can share, subscribe, do everything you can to support us, please. And we're gonna be wrapping this up. And it was much longer than I expected it to. But James, thank you so much.
Not a problem.
You stood here for a little longer, man. You're always welcome as well. It feels like you can also talk about the Prem, right? So whenever you want to come back, man, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Nice.
I'm gonna give you the room here. If you want to say anything you have in mind, but also tell people where to find you, what can people expect to see you in your platforms, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share my socials to start off with. So on Twitter, it's at DC United Kingdom. Facebook and Instagram, it's at DC United Kingdom FC. Some of the things that I do over on the channel as well. So there's YouTube. I do a podcast, which we tend to try and get out weekly. There's me and 2 other guys who do it. And it's fantastic as we get to talk about the club, talk about match analysis and things like that. But every so often, I get to interview players and I get to interview the coaches as well. So it's great that the club are actually involved with us in that sort of side. But there's also an international supporters group as well. So if you ever want to come and join us, it's free. We have a private Twitter group as well where we do chat. It's always going off, especially on game days as well. There's people from all over, from the UK, from Belgium, from Brazil. We've got people from Asia as well. It's fantastic. So it's great to see.
All right. To that point, why should Steven support DC United?
Well, I'm the only English person that's been on here. So, but no, honestly, the club, it's one of the oldest clubs in the league. It's been going since its inception. As it says on my jersey, just here, tradition. We are quite a traditional club in the sense that we're called DC United, so it's quite a normal name as well. But we've been there from the very beginning. We've got some great fans as well, and we've got history, and we've won the league on multiple occasions as well. So we've got a winning pedigree.
All right, yeah, those are good arguments. I forgot to ask, like, who are the biggest clubs in the MLS title wise?
I mean, you've got, in terms of the biggest clubs, you've got LA Galaxy, who've won 5 MLS Cups. They've won the most. Then there's us. You've got Seattle Sounders, who are a big team. And I would probably say, no, they've never won. They've not won the. Oh, come on. Don't swear at me. They've never won MLS Cup.
Now, Thierry Henry played there, and that's why you think they're good. But
that's why it's because obviously Henry went.
Red Bulls. They think they're a big club, but they're not. So they're like Tottenham for that aspect.
Okay, fair
You
enough.
don't want to spot a Tottenham, do you?
No.
Okay, those are good arguments. Okay, before I go to Steven, who's this dude?
Hello, everybody. Been watching the stream the whole time and listening to it as much as I can.
Matt, you've just scared all your viewers off, man.
Nah, it looks pretty behind you, dude.
I'm in a dome, mate. Look. I'm on the top of a hill in Cornwall.
No, what it is that it looks like that guy that sneaks up behind you in the middle of the night and takes you away and beats you to death.
I hope so. I hope so. Great chat tonight, guys. Thank you so much for coming on as well and supporting Marley as well. We were actually having a laugh. We were actually saying that the American World Cup was actually pretty good. And I enjoyed it. It was a very good World Cup. Apart from Leonardo, where he banged out that American player with his elbow. Very dirty. But, winners will be dirty to win, won't they?
How good was Romario then, dude? Romario was so fabulous back then.
He was. And Bebe.
Incredible. Yeah, Bebeto. Yes, Bebeto. Yeah.
Bebeto.
All right. Steven, what do you want to do first? Shout out your socials, or do you want to pick an MLS team? Come on.
Thinking still, so I'm just gonna go for you can find it SVT causing carnage, mayhem, God knows what, talking about this shit club behind me. Well, unfortunately, I support these motherfuckers. Anyone can come and banter me.
We went so long without swearing, dude. We went so long.
Sorry, man. I'm just this club is killing me. Okay, it's killing me. Okay,
so, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
It really hurts. So, but like I said, like you can banter me about it, but I can banter myself. We do content saying we do F1 content because Hamilton's the GOAT. And yeah, make sure before you come to SVT TV and subscribe there. And we're so close to 1.1 help get this all for Disease Foundation. And we got a membership scheme from $1.99 a month to $8.99, and we're literally help raise a monthly sum. And we're so close to £2,000 here. Well, another £1,000 in total.
All right. So you haven't picked a team yet, then?
Okay.
That was important, dude.
I would have to say, because I support historical. It's got a club that's got a winning pedigree. We used to have one. Still has one. Still, he won the trophy. Not years. Something like Arsenal in like similar circumstances in that sense. Be DC United.
All
There
right.
we go.
All right. So
Nice.
yeah, James, you are the winner. You are the winner.
Look at that. Look at that. You're very welcome to the black and red.
All right. I
As we're-
don't know why an Arsenal fan would decide to pick a team that's similar to Arsenal, but okay, there you go. That's what Steven decided upon.
We are doing better than that.
And to be fair, we're doing pretty good this season. Let's put it that way. We are winning games, scoring goals, and being very entertaining. Can't argue with it at all.
That's what
Am I back?
That's what I love Arsenal.
Yeah, just keep an eye on us on because we're generally shown on free sports over here in the UK. So keep an eye on that. At least you don't have to pay to watch it. That's always a good thing. And I tend to use a VPN to go on their website and watch the games because they've got some great commentary as well. The commentator is an absolute legend.
Right. So, guys, that was it. I'm sorry for crashing twice already. It means that God wants me to finish this stream, right? By the way, just if you don't know that yet, please donate to Steven's. Crap, it's that way. Please donate to Steven's donation page. When it reaches 1,000 pounds, I'm gonna shave my hair live in his channel. So that's been up in the air for a while. You guys are taking too long to donate.
No.
Donate more. Donate
Here's
more
the
money.
secret. Here's the ingredient. I forgot to tell you. Right, I'm fine to pursue it.
That would have been really cool.
Anyway,
but yeah, guys,
It would've been good.
please stay tuned to everything we do at Football United TV. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, please. Follow myself as well on Twitter at Marley Chillin. Stay tuned. I think in 2 days' time, Matt's going to be doing United Across the Globe. On Friday, Steven's going to be joining me for Gunners from All Corners, like always. And yeah, just stay tuned. We plan on doing a show for football in the Americas. James is always going to be invited for that one as well. So yeah, stay tuned to Football United TV. And thank you so much for joining us once again. Maddie, do you have anything to add to that?
Ooh.
You're muted.
He's on mute.
You're muted. You're muted.
Watch it back if you can. Great stream. It really was. Glad to have all you lot on. Hopefully we can do another MLS show again. Charlie, Marley, bro, you did fantastic. Stephen, James, thank you for coming in tonight.
You're very welcome.
I'm on a hill in the middle of nowhere. I'm just about using 4G right now just to be able to come on and say thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Only because you opened the tent door. Signal's working
Awesome.
now.
Awesome. Okay, guys, that's our time then. Thank you so much for joining us and stay tuned to Football United TV. All right, United we fly, guys. Ciao.